So I'm sending out smudge to each of you. Feel free to receive this cleansing smoke. Asking Creator for a time of good connection, learning, and inspiring each other.
Rarely do we get a time to get into some kind of a relationship in which stories will be unfolding. Stories of, first of all, who we are, where we come from, and why we are here.
The reauthoring practices are like a good meal. You have to taste it to have a sense of the work. And so the invitation of reauthoring ideas and practices is how can we take back the pen in the writing of our lives as communities, as individuals, as regions.
Are we the sum of many stories? What stories are we the sum of? What if we could choose the ones we want to live by and see all those stories we're swimming in? Let's take back the pen and reauthor our narratives. Have no fear, human connectedness is here. Let art, nature, care, and community lift us up. Our love is our medicine. We are here. We are present. We are one.
One thing that everyone kind of gained from it was that when Eastern Owl came to rehearsal with Lady Cove, it wasn't suddenly like, oh, Eastern Owl's in the choir, so now they're all going to sit there and they're going to listen to the conductor and do whatever they're told. Everyone was giving their input. It's like, oh, what if we added this instrument? What if we added this? What if we added this? What if we added echoes, echoes, echoes? You know, like that wasn't there in my original arrangement. I think it was you, Janelle, who said that in rehearsal, like, oh, we should do an echo on the echo. I'm like, you're right. I'm going to go back and change the score. And then Lady Cove really got to experience what a collaborative musical experience could be like. So it was just this cathartic, beautiful experience to see my two different musical lives coming together. And then Eastern Owl learned so much about choral singing, and Lady Cove learned so much about just collaborative music making. And I think everybody learned a lot, and it went even better than I could have hoped, I think. It is the woman
born in me. Because in the kind of classical conducting world, I would be even considered somebody who, you know, kind of lets the choir talk more than they would most. You walk in, nobody's allowed to say a word. You do exactly what you're told. And for all of us to sit and see, because of the time, because of the respect and the collaboration and recognizing everyone has something to bring to this, like I've become a different musician, a different conductor. And, you know, I can't tell you how, and that like there's 60 women in this choir whose lives have been changed.
As artists, as Indigenous women, we're always looking to strengthen our relationships, and that's such an integral part of our process when collaborating with community. Is the very first thing that we consider is relationship building. Through thick and thin, a friendship that will never end. When you are weak,
this past week has been really hard for us in Nova Scotia. And of course, this crisis that the whole world is facing is taxing all of us. But it's also an opportunity not only to reflect on what we're feeling right now and going through right now, but also to talk about the future, and for us to really visualize what that future could look like, and how it can be a more creative and compassionate society. There's a lot of things that are wrong with our world, and so I believe the arts serve as a beacon for us, and it's an opportunity for us to show the way things could be, and to provide leadership, and to encourage others to think of to think of people outside of themselves, and to see how they can fit into this hope for this better world that can emerge from this time of crisis and time of reflection.
When I was maybe 10 or 11, so this is not recent, my dad woke me up one morning to ask if I could come and help at the barn, and it was pretty early, and he never asks for help. So and it was a sow that was delivering pigs, and that one or more were stuck, and she was having a lot of trouble, and he asked me to help because my hand was small enough to actually reach in and pull out the piglets. And I remember that, like, I don't remember how old I was or anything, but I do remember that feeling of like pulling out piglets, and afterwards feeling like I did something that was important for my dad.
Feeling inspired to seek out more opportunities to engage and connect with community like this,
I personally feel like the connection between my parents, my grandparents, my kids is like really intense. And even though I love farming and growing food, and no matter where I lived, it would probably have some part of my life. I can't picture myself farming anywhere other than here, just because that's like my main reason. Like, food and farming for me is just family. It's building the relationships so intensely and doing things that are so intense and not always fun, but the shared experience that comes with that afterwards.
Into an organic grain farm, yeah.
For the first time, we're thinking the step past our food and thinking about what our food eats. And I've been thinking that my whole life, but it was so encouraging to have somebody else think, somebody else who's not at all in this realm. It's their first time raising chickens, and up to now they thought they were doing a great thing sourcing organic eggs or whatever, but now they're thinking about what does that thing eat. And that's a huge step. Like, that's a giant thing to think about.
Like, money still matters in this, right? And coming into the COVID-19 situation, we were in a position that I was getting phone calls from people in positions of power saying, what do we do? And I was able to communicate that clearly we were facing a food security crisis because of COVID-19 in a number of ways. And I was so lucky because I get the call that says, what do we do? And I say, give people money and don't judge. We were able to say, we can flow it through us. And so some of that money is now buying ammunition and gas for people's snowmobiles so that they can go out and hunt a bear and put it in the community freezer. And it would be very difficult for more sort of complex institutions to spend money on that. But it's not for us. And so, like, we've seen all this kind of, it's been so fascinating for me to see, I think, what happens when you trust people. Like, not having unnecessary barriers has opened up a lot of places, and getting the sort of just doing stuff.
The time is now. The
I'm inspired to sing more, with others and alone, singing for the ancestors, for ourselves, and for the ones coming.
Will work be more connected? Will we lean into connecting and sharing more deeply our own vulnerabilities, our feelings, our stories?
Each and every one of us have been given certain gifts. And those gifts were meant for each of us to share. If the air is not clean, if the water is not clean, if the soil is not fertile, then what are we going to live on?
Like, you know, my mother always made baskets, and she was always sitting on the floor making baskets. She never had sat in a chair or a table at the table. And we'd all gather around her, and it wasn't really like, you know, you go to school and learn anything. It's just like, you know, I don't even know she taught us how to make them. It's just that you did it on your own. You did what you felt like doing. And this is how basket weaving came into my life. And it was, you know, I think it was a family thing that really helped us. And this is probably why after I went to school and I came home, the family was still intact. I don't know if you see this one.
Yes.
Mom worked with a lot of sweetgrass, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And we used to, and that's another thing we used to do too. It was another thing that we did was pick sweetgrass. It was like a family thing, and we all cleaned it together and stored it. That's one of Mom's baskets. And this is one of the most recent ones I made.
Oh, wow. It's beautiful.
The song that I wrote for Mamie, it is about the day that she had found out that her husband passed away. Mamie wasn't sure what the situation was, but she knew that she had to be prepared. So she was getting a room ready and hot water and things to take care of him. She knew there was an accident. But then when she saw the wagon coming up her road and she saw a box in the back, it came to her that no, he had passed away. And so it's kind of just, when I heard that story from my dad, I thought, what a devastating moment for her, and I think what a great story for a song. Oh, you know, someone is all you have.
Environmental racism in Canada and Nova Scotia exists. It's a reality. I think the term is problematic for people because they don't understand the subtleties with which environmental racism weaves itself into our societies.
Someone is all you have.
We should know that environmental racism doesn't happen on its own. So when we talk about environmental racism, it's very difficult to also not talk about colonialism and inequalities in labor and inequalities in housing, inequalities in employment. These things happen together. And it's much easier than to put an industry in a community that's dealing with those social ills, other social ills, multiple inequalities, because those multiple inequalities destabilize communities, making it much easier for an industry owner to say, that's where I'm going to put that industry, because those are communities that tend not to be able to fight back because they're dealing with so many other competing issues.
Someone is all you
But if you consider yourself to be an ally for a cause, there can be no conditions.
You can't stand with us to fight a pipeline going into the land or the sea and then criticize us for evoking our treaty rights for moderate livelihood. Being a true ally, has no conditions. If you're with us, you're with us. You're educating yourself. You're learning about the whole history, and you're sharing that with people. You're helping us build awareness and understandings through everything. So it can't be just something, you can't stand with a group of people just for the cause of something you're going to benefit from. And then when something else comes down the road, criticize the same group of people.
And remembering one thing in particular that my father always said was a very simple thing. No matter where you are or what you do, hold your head up and be very proud of who you are. And always remember, if you're doing something, do it for somebody else. And those things, those words, those things stayed with me all my life. And that's how I guess I grew up, being able to deal with some of the racism and the name calling.
I've lost some good friends along life's way. Some loved ones departed in heaven to stay. But thank God I didn't lose everything.
As time went by, I realized my life was not my own, but was for something that was a mystery to me. As I questioned myself, who was at the helm of influencing me as a person? I had to be that influence for myself. I had to define who I was and who I was going to become. It was the things of this world that was influencing me all over this time. So I began to, the empowerment was mostly deeply cultivated during the times I was challenged. Without failure, I would have nothing to improve upon. My imperfect moment provided the perfect trajectory for my growth. Empowerment enabled me to take initiative and make decisions and solve problems.
I never lost my faith, but most of all, I never lost my faith. Still here.
I'm a person of love and heart, and then I became a monk. Not no monk of no religion. A monk is one of the self, one with no anger, no worry, no jealousy. He goes, okay, oh, you got power, you can heal. That don't mean nothing. You angry all the time, jealous, worry. Find yourself, and then you will have peace. Then you will have harmony with all things and all people. So that is my love blessing I like to share. I love people. Sahu means awakener of the self. So that is my job, is to help people to see their real self that's underneath that I couldn't see. I only know it because I went through it and experienced it. I thought that was me, but I was in pain. The real you will be full of love, no pain. It doesn't matter if you're a garbage man, no matter what you're doing, you'll have peace and love with who you are and have harmony with the all.
The time is now. The time is now.
Deeper connection across differences and bridging divides through story and understanding our relatedness and our relations to the different problems and solutions through the stories we share.
There should be a sense of responsibility in all of us, in some degree or another. There is a great need to coin something that will help us to unite. Not just invite, but we're going to embrace the spirit of collaboration. So that doesn't matter what the host looks like, that spirit of knowledge. will always be utilized.
I am nourished by these stories. I am nourished by these stories. I am nourished by these stories. Yes, I am. Here I am crying again. Rental chickens. Love it. I said rental chickens. Love it. Yeah. Rental chickens. Love it. Rental chickens. Love it. Rental chickens.
Waleilan, ta believe. Thank you. Merci.